I'm not a ranger yet, but I will be in the future.
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Once a Ranger. I'm Minhas, and I'm joined with Nev the Poet and Akil. And today we're going to be talking about episode 41, 42, 43. Like, we're trudging through it, actually. I'm pretty surprised. Rita, Seed of Evil, A Pig Surprise, and Something Fishy. We're in the back to the Just the Five Rangers. And, okay, I have a lot of thoughts on these, even though these episodes are kind of formulaic. But I'm actually very curious to hear what Akil has to say, because in the beginning, we had said Bulk and Skull kind of end up being not bullies and end up being the butt of the joke, and they kind of like become more endearing and you feel for them. And this is really, really, really when we get into those kind of episodes. So let's start with that, because I'm like, I was really thinking about you when I watched these episodes.
Well, I loved Bulk and Skull's intro in this episode when Bulk just starts rhyming his sentences. I thought that was so fun. And I wish they kept it going through the rest of the episode. But they kind of got overtaken by just being trapped. And now nobody's laughing at them. They are like the victims of their own problems for the rest of the episode in this one, until the very end. So they had their own little side plot, getting stuck in the porta potty for pretty much the entire episode.
Yeah.
Literal toilet humor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What I really love. Sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't a lot of toilet humor, though. I thought they would play into it a little bit more, but like they mentioned it was a bad smell twice, and Skull had to go twice, and that's it. Yeah. I was expecting a little bit more toilet humor, but it's also a kid's show from the 90s, so I don't know how much they could have gotten away with.
Yeah. This is the beginning of, so from now on, you'll actually see a lot more of Bulk and Skull. They'll always have their own side plot. There's going to be a couple episodes, maybe not, but this is the thing now. They are like characters of the show. They're not just, hey, like one or two like little cameos here and there. And one thing I noticed is, okay, last time we talked about how they started using the American counter costumes. And you guys have mentioned that, hey, this happened before. But why I brought it up is because now they're really leaning into it. And we have that scene with Bulk and Skull doing that hilarious backwards walk. And was it Squat or Babu? He's also doing that backwards walk. So and I've noticed in later episodes, like 3 episodes from now, the pig pen, they always have now some sort of American counter footage. It's still very obvious it's American counter footage. I talked about like the helmets being weird. I still think they're weird. And I really was trying to figure out what was off about them. And I feel like they're boxy. Like Jason's character in the American one is so like his shoulders are like almost connected to his head. And he looks like the toys that we got. I don't know if you remember in the 90s, like they look exactly like the toys that we got. Whereas the Japanese ones, they feel like more like streamlines. They look like people who are actually superheroes that can like do their flips and kicks. Whereas in the American one, they feel like I said this last week, but I really felt it in these 3 episodes. It feel like they can't even keep their helmets on their head. You could tell that they're struggling with it. Mm-hmm. But I like that they're adding more of the American thing, because I know it's still very obvious that it's American. It does feel more seamless, and we're allowed to have more stories with these characters. Right? Like, including Squat with Bulk and Skull lists, like, I think that is a game changer for what the Power Rangers are trying to achieve here.
Yeah, it really grounds the whole episode, just having that one interaction, because I felt like this was less, okay, these parts take place in California and these parts take place in Japan. It felt a lot more seamless, like you were saying.
Yeah, and we're back to... so even the park stuff, right? There was a couple of like Power Ranger parts, like American Power Ranger parts in the park. But when we cut to the Japan footage, they're still in a park. Like, it's still very obvious that it's a different park, but it's like, hey, like we have this kind of overlap that's going on. So let's go dive into the actual story of what's going on with the Rangers. Octoplant, environmentalism. Billy has fertilizer that can save the world, but they don't use it.
They did
And
use it. They used it on 2 of their trees.
on 2 other trees, but no other trees.
2 out of the 3 trees that they planted. Actually, I think they reused the footage. So 1 out of the 3 trees that they planted.
Save the world. Billy, in the future. So when we watched, sorry, Dov, do you have any thoughts?
No, all I wrote was it's great that the Billy has this fertilizer, but is it safe? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
he tested it on a single blade of grass, just like he did in the last environment episode.
This is toxic. He has the toxic vial.
yeah, that was the only thought I had about that. I was just like, well, I was also just like, they really went back to formula after like this supposed or intended series finale, and then they're just like, oh, since they're just doing more, they're like, okay, let's just do the same thing. And so it's like these 3 episodes are very, very standard, which is fine. They're fun, but I did notice like it almost feels like episode 3 or 4, you know, like that level of, because it's just like, oh, they're doing good work for the community. And then Rita's like, she literally says something like, oh, so you want to plant some trees, huh? I was like, what is wrong with you, dude? She's so petty. She just has to, and she does that for like, I think all 3 episodes, if I remember correctly.
But that's why she's so great as a villain.
Oh, yeah.
The pettiness of villains is my favorite thing, because she's like, she doesn't even care about taking over the world. She's like, these guys are planting trees. I'm going to ruin their day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in one of these episodes, Goldar even says, now we can finally destroy Angel Grove. Like, they've really brought down their ambitions from destroying the world to destroying the Power Rangers to destroying Angel Grove.
When the finale was supposed to be destroying Angel Grove, it was like, you know what? Maybe your ambitions are too. We couldn't even destroy Angel Grove last time. We had this huge fight with monster after monster after monster. She gave it her all, and she's like, hey, I'm going to start small and move my way out. But actually, this plant, Octoplant, can take over the world. Like that footage of it eating a planet was pretty serious. I was like, this is actually a pretty serious monster. It didn't act like serious when it was released. My headcanon is it got like weakened over 1,000 years of not just out of shape, you know, not been doing anything. The vegetables are immune to punching for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
Yeah, he said
It's mostly composed of vegetable matter, so our punches have little to no effect.
They don't use any other
I wrote down the full Billy quote. I'm sorry.
Okay, say it. No, yeah.
Yeah, she's mostly composed of vegetable matter, so our punches have little or no effect on her. That's the whole thing.
That's so
and he says
funny.
it like so matter of fact, like, yeah, you can't punch vegetables. It doesn't work.
Billy was a something in this episode, because when they were fighting the putties, I feel like Akil, you probably remember. He goes, "You putties will have to strike with more velocity than that."
Yeah.
Who says that?
Billy does.
Billy's so funny. Actually, there's a couple of episodes that are more Billy focused, which again, I mentioned this in the last episodes. Like, I'm glad we're going to see more of the Rangers and their stories, because it was a Tommy show. Even though he was barely in it, it was still the Tommy show for a really long time. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Akil, you were going to say I?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say for Octoplant, she turned into a woman, which I was not expecting. I expected her to be weird plant form the entire time, because that's what was in the flashback, right? You destroy the world as a plant. And then she turned into like a humanoid with she, her pronouns.
Yes. In my headcanon. Okay.
Yes.
So
please explain your headcanon, Minas.
She is a plant, right? So I think it just went like phases of plant growth. So you know how flowers are buds before they bloom. So this one was a bud, and then it was a human, and then she'll turn into like an octopus monster thing that takes over the world. That's my headcanon. It's like phases of
but she started as octopus monster. She went octopus monster, bud, human, and then octopus monster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Then you're right.
That's fine.
My headcanon has fallen apart.
No, that's just like Pokemon evolution of plants, right?
Yes.
You turn from vine into seed into hot woman into plant.
Oh my god. I know exactly what Pokemon you're talking about. That's
No, I was
so
gonna have to search that up and put it on screen now.
yeah, I know he's gonna have to look it up.
Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also found like the whole premise of this monster to be a hindrance to the episode, actually. At least for Rita's plan. Because usually she just sends down a monster and then they just, then the story unfolds. But in this case, they had to wait for it to bloom, I guess. So then
Right.
they had Goldar and Scorpina fighting them, and then it finally bloomed. And then she made the classic mistake of making it grow just for no reason. Like, they're winning.
Yeah.
They were destroying the Rangers, actually. And then it's finally ready. It blooms into this woman creature.
Yeah.
And then she's all just right away, okay, grow now. I was like, what are you doing, Rita? Come on. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, she's jumping the gun there a lot.
Yeah.
Um
And
and
then
sorry, go ahead.
Octoplant is then, well, I'm going to talk about her downfall. So if you want to say something before that, go ahead.
No, I can bring it up
Yeah.
after. Yeah.
Okay. She's defeated because she gets distracted looking at a reflection of herself. What?
the laziest.
Yes. I wrote that in my notes. I was like, why was she looking at herself? Like, there was no reason.
They
She
never
just-
established some vanity
Yeah.
flaw.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, you could have done that of like, oh, if it was initially this like grotesque plant looking being and then turned into
Yeah.
the figure that there was, and then there could have been something there, but first of all, the Zord just moved out of the way. It walked into a skyscraper building, sees its reflection, and just stops. What is that?
She's like, what is that? Is that what I look like? She doesn't even say anything. She's just like, what?
And they cut way too quickly. Actually, I saw the monster was making like a motion, I guess, to like look at itself, like kind of like express like I don't know, admiration or whatever. I don't know what it was because they cut away from it almost immediately, and they just like before we could even really process what it was doing, they went to Rita like, stop looking at yourself or whatever she said, like turn around something. I was like, wait, what's going? It was so quick,
Right.
it's so jarring.
Yeah.
That's funny because it's like when you put like your pet into what are they like those shows that they have like those dog shows, and it's like you're yelling, don't do this, blah blah blah. That's what it reminded me of. This episode was actually really funny because a lot of stuff was happening for no reason. It just like this thing happened, this thing happened, this thing happened, and it's like why?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going on? One of my favorite things, and this was what I was actually going to say before you were talking about the defeat, Haka, was Jason being like, I'm going to go to park and I'm going to see what's going on, right? And I'm like, okay, Jason, leadership skills, you got to plan, you know what's going on. This is perfect. And he goes to the park and he just goes, And then, and for those of you who are listening on the podcast, he just put his arms on his, and he just looks for a second, and then right where he's looking, just there's some essence coming out of the ground,
Yeah.
and then he's like, all right, then he can't touch it,
Yep.
and it's like so much stuff. Again, this thing happened, but he can touch it again after, like they can dig it up. So it
Yeah.
was just like. It was a lot going on, but I actually like that Jason takes the lead. I like that he's like back into it. He's doing his flow. He is a good leader. He's a solid leader. And I don't know if it was this episode or later. Somebody was like, "Jason, you're a team." Blah blah blah. They addressed him directly, which is like, okay, cool. Jason's really getting into his role and whatnot. Another thing I liked about this episode, and this is my last note, so you guys can take the lead with what you guys think of this episode. The putty fight, actually, I have two notes. The putty fight was really good. I love the putty fight that they had in this episode. I love it when they do a duo kind of fight. It's very synchronized, and they like the fighting scene is very, very fun. With every other fighting scenes when they're individual, I've heard through interviews that it's kind of improvised, where these ones really feel like, prepared beforehand. This was a really good putty scene.
Yeah. Did they introduce a new putty for this scene?
I think
'Cause
that's
I feel like there was like a putty Urukai wandering around, like the black putty that was bigger and more powerful than the other ones.
So they had summoned the super putties, which we had seen in the past, but one of
Okay.
them was like a more clay filled. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's never like properly addressed. It's not like officially addressed in any sort of manner in the show where it's like, oh,
Okay.
this is a different, class of putty or something like that. So
Oh.
I think
So I'm just racist by assuming that the black putty was a different kind of putty. That's my bad. I'd like to apologize.
Yeah,
Putties can look different.
even though they usually don't look different. I think they might have. They're like Nell said. There's no real reason why that one looked different. I understand why you thought it was a different putty, but
Yeah.
they didn't really explain it because later on, jumping ahead, there is a putty that talks. So they are
Yeah.
clearly variants of putties,
Mhm.
which is the
Are
putties.
you, sorry, are you talking about the putty that talks in the next episode, or is this some future thing that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, in the next episode.
Okay,
So
yeah.
literally in the next episode, a putty talks.
I assume
Yeah.
Rita casts like a spell on those putties to transform them, and so then they have the ability. Because this isn't the first time putties have turned into like the five Rangers when they became like the evil Rangers. Remember, they were the evil versions of the kids, or there were even other kids before or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
and
like,
at the circus, there were clowns.
right.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
it's a spell that transforms them into these other beings, and they're able to communicate then, at least in English, I
Well,
guess.
yeah, maybe putties just don't have vocal cords. Like in their
Maybe.
human form, they probably have like vocal cords that can form words.
They make noises though.
Well, not the same. I mean, like a dog can't say human words, right?
Sure.
It's like the voices are different. So even with chimpanzees, they did an experiment to teach them how to use human words before they did sign language. You can
Yeah.
look this up and double fact check it. This is
No, I did. I saw the
yeah.
documentary Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Anyways, it didn't work. It didn't work. Like they could form certain vowels, but like their mouth just couldn't
Like ooh.
do yeah, like, but like they just couldn't say human words, but they could do sign language, right? So I figured that's like something similar with putties, where they just can't like whatever their genetic makeup is doesn't allow them to do that.
Maybe.
They also can't do sign language because they have ridiculous hands.
They do. They're made of like punchy
Clay.
things.
What is it called? Soccer boppers. They're soccer bopper hands. A throwback.
If I were a putty, I'd be so excited when Rita made me human. I'll be like, yes, I could do something.
Yeah, that's why the old lady was doing like she's
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, whee! I love that. The thing with putties too, they're only, if I were a putty and I turned human, I would be like that guy who just wanted his eggs. I'd be like, all right, I got fingers now. Give me a sandwich. Give me something to eat. I can't hold my food.
Yeah.
The last note I have for this episode is Squat did all that work for a potential of having a glow-in-the-dark toothbrush.
Toothpaste.
Yeah.
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste. I was like, whoa, what are they doing? Like, poor guy, does he have money? Like, he just wants glow-in-the-dark toothpaste. I felt so bad for him.
He has better dental care than I do at my job. If
Dude.
if toothpaste is on the table, then he's got it.
Well, he has the
better
teeth.
benefits.
He needs, better benefits. But it's a maybe. It's a maybe toothpaste.
It's a maybe.
It's not a guaranteed toothpaste. I thought that was a funny little adage to them, because it's like sometimes they're employees and sometimes she's like a mother, right? Where she's like, if you do this, I'll give you candy. It's like chores almost.
Yeah.
And that was like neat.
Yeah, I feel like toothpaste is more in the mother field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking, right? So I was like,
Well, depends on your boss.
It does
Some
depend on the
bosses are really scummy.
pizza party.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like that.
High five.
I can't give you a raise that you deserve for all the great work you've done, but I can throw a pizza party.
I can throw a pizza party, or I can give you glow-in-the-dark toothpaste, which you can never use because you're not supposed to brush your teeth in the dark.
Right. Maybe he can.
I mean, then you can if you have glow-in-the-dark
Then
toothpaste.
I guess then you can. Yeah.
Well, no, it's glow-in-the-dark toothpaste, headcanon. Glow-in-the-dark toothpaste. You use it in the light, and then it makes your teeth glow in the dark.
Oh, that would
Yeah.
make him very scary.
That
That would be good for him.
Yes. Because he has the teeth. He definitely
does have
has the
the
teeth.
His teeth are fairly scary on their own. Like they're big enough to scare Bulk and Skull.
Yes. I mean, Bulk and Skull, they experience monsters all the time, but I think it's still scary.
Hmm.
Like you're in the park, you're trying to steal a tree, and then I don't know why they were walking backwards like that, but I love that they were doing that. It was such a funny bit. You turn
Oh, it's a
around,
classic gag.
yeah, turn around and there's a monster like looking straight at you. And I think Squat also got scared, which was also hilarious. He's like,
Hmm.
"Oh no, two humans, gotta go." That's really funny.
Hmm.
I think we can move on to the next episode, A Pig's Surprise.
Hmm.
Starting off with, yeah, some putties can talk. She talks so evilly. She's like, I need someone to get rid of this, to get this pig. And she's like, ooh, and she goes into the forest and she's like climbing. Like, that was the funniest.
Yeah, just
That was the
dessert.
funniest visual.
Oh, I actually before the that scene though, I believed it was just a genuine thing. I don't know.
Did you?
Yeah, I really did. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, just getting a pig. I really didn't think much of it. I was just like, yeah. She
That's
didn't come
so
off as
funny.
menacing to me or any sort of
Yeah.
deviousness to me. I was just like,
She
oh.
seemed so menacing to me. I'm like, what is up with this old lady being like so adamant that someone take this pig?
To me, it just came across as bad acting. And then when she stopped crying like immediately and ran away, then I'm like, okay, something's up.
That's so
I didn't
funny.
even think about it. Yeah, it was just,
I
I
wonder.
think I was more focused on the fact that people were giving and taking animals through like no legal process. There's no paperwork. The kids are just being handed pets. Like no
Hold on,
parents
hold
are
on. Trini
signing
had a
off.
clipboard.
Oh,
Trini
Yeah.
had a clipboard.
no parents. Like they just gave. They're like, oh, here, have this dog to this little kid. No parents around them. The kid just walks off. I was like, did they get an okay from their parents to take this entire being into their possession?
Right.
What is going? So I think that's and same thing. She just gave this pig like, oh, we're just a like a donation place. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, just
Yeah.
drop off your clothes. Oh, just drop off your these like animals that you found. That's where
Drop
my
off
focus
your
was.
animals. Give us no contact information.
Right. What do you do with the extra animals? Like, what's going on here?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's why I was too distracted by that to pay attention to the old lady.
The old lady was so shady. Like she showed up. I don't know what about her that made me like clock it right away. It's just the way she was like, please take this pig, put it into a good home. It's her intonations. Like something was going
Hmm.
on with her. I'm like, that is a sussy old lady.
It could be because I watched it on 1.5x speed, so maybe I didn't read the cues because it was just like did it, did it, did it. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
maybe.
plot is yeah. She gave a pig. Cool.
Yeah.
That's so
She
funny.
she
You're
was weird
missing
in her
out.
micro expressions.
Yeah, she was weird in her micro expressions.
No, I could tell with some scenes actually because like obviously the music is sped up and everything when you're watching
Yeah.
it that way. So I could just hear like, oh, this scene would have been like maybe a good 15 to 20 seconds long, and it was like 6 seconds long. Like I definitely don't want to, but I didn't have time to watch all 3 episodes at a normal speed, so I just had to speed through it. So
Well, pro tip, just do it with the fights.
Yeah, just speed
Yeah.
through the fights.
that's
Yes.
fair. That's fair. You're
Yeah.
right. Actually, that's the yeah, because I don't really care for the fights anyway.
Sometimes, actually, no, because in the next episode, I skipped through the fight and then I had to go back and rewatch it because there's plot development in the fight.
Yeah, don't skip the fights. Some of the fights are really good, but
Yeah,
if you watch it a little faster, I'm sure it's okay.
yeah.
Um,
They are getting very formulaic, the fights especially. So,
yeah, so what I noticed was all 3 times they're like they didn't pick their like main weapons for the Megazord. They just did the
Mhm.
sword slash. So it wasn't really like that dramatic of a fight either.
Mhm.
They didn't really call Titanus or anything else. So these are like low stake monsters, right? But it
Yeah.
was like pretty much the same fight, except for the
It-
one in the next episode.
yeah, in this case, it was Pudgy Pig. Is that
Yeah.
the name?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a monster that we've seen before. The fake version, spoilers, of the monster that we've seen before.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have so many notes about this pig. So first of all, I think the Rangers are mean in this episode. I do not think they're nice to Bulk and Skull at all.
Mhm.
They have a pig. Pigs are cute, first of all.
Yeah.
Bulk and Skull's like, we want to adopt an animal. And they're all like, hee, we have the perfect animal for you. And then they hand him a
Oh.
pig. Yeah. They are making like faces to each other, like,
Yeah.
we have the perfect animal for you, Bulk. Here's a pig. And then Bulk and Skull, they're sweet in this episode, surprisingly. They're like, oh my God, I love this pig. I
Mhm.
love this pig so much. They go to the classroom, he has a pig, and like, everyone look at my pig. And then like they're like the Rangers are like laughing at them throughout this entire episode for no reason. But all the Bulk and Skull just love, they're so happy with Norman. They take him everywhere. They're feeding him their favorite foods and whatnot. And then when it turns into a monster, Bulk goes, don't you recognize us? We're your parents.
Mhm.
It was so sweet. I'm like, Bulk. And now they're traumatized about pigs. They laughed at him at the end because they were so scared of this pig that turned into
Yeah.
a monster in front of them. Like, guys, like, please chill out. Like, they're not even being mean. They just
Mhm.
want to have love for this pig.
Yeah. So I had a completely different reading of that initial interaction, which was they had already run out of animals by the time Bulk and Skull got there.
They did.
They had given all the other animals away, and only the way I saw it, only Kimberly was the one that was put off by the pig being there. Everybody else was fine. But
Yeah.
then Kimberly's also the one to hand off Norman to Bulk and Skull.
Kimberly was
S-
definitely mean in this episode. But
So yeah, Kimberly was mean, but I don't think the rest of the Rangers were mean.
well,
And then when
Trini
Norman goes to
like
school, the rest of them are mean. So
yeah. Well, Trini, they all kind of like looked at each other. They had a side glance.
yeah.
There was like subtleties. There's definitely a lot of subtleties in this episode with expressions. I might be reading too much into it, but I did see like they were like they looked at each other, they kind of smiled, and then
Hmm.
yeah, then they were like just being mean to Vulcan Skull for no reason. Like sometimes they deserve it. Like I'm not
Hmm.
saying that they don't deserve it, but this episode they really didn't deserve it.
Yeah. They know sometimes they do. But in
Sometimes
this
they do
episode
deserve
they
it.
didn't.
Let's be real.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
yeah.
episode they definitely did it. This
Hmm.
pig, I love this pig.
Norman.
Norman, he's so cute. It turns into Pudgy Pig, which is like
Yeah.
actually, like you said, it's a discount version of Pudgy Pig. He doesn't eat as much.
Hmm.
He's just like they give him like half a sandwich or something. He's satisfied. He goes, oh, the funniest thing. They go to like a pig farm and he went into a pig pen and he's dancing in a pig. I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then he falls in love. This is a good episode. Okay, I don't care what you guys say. I love this episode.
It is hilarious that this pudgy pig monster is really just Norman's normal pig brain
Yeah.
in a pig monster body, and he just wants to do normal pig things, like eat a sandwich and have a pig wife and sty around, I think is what he said he wanted to do with his pig wife. And just yeah, it was a fun time.
It was a fun. He didn't even want to fight. Like that's why he just left to go
Yeah.
into be in a pig pen. Like
Hmm.
literally cage himself. He's like, I don't want to be out there. The
Yeah.
world is too big for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the farm. And this is another example of the American footage really coming into play here.
Hmm.
Because those were the American Power Rangers, and I know because Jason looked like a square. Like I know it's just this is not the Japanese Power Rangers. So this was like another instance where like it really helped their case to have these Rangers do the American thing because that scene, I love
Hmm.
that scene. It was really really good.
Yeah, and the Power Rangers noticed it almost immediately that it's like, oh, this isn't a monster, this is a real pig, we can't fight him. But
Yeah.
now Bulk and Skull have pig TSD because of it.
Yeah. Oh man. So
Yeah.
sad. I feel like also that
Hmm.
this episode was trying to play for time because of a couple reasons. One, when Pudgy Pig first shows up to fight, he jumps off the building, he jumps back on the building, he jumps off the building again. And then the Rangers call each of their Zords. So that's always an indication that they're like playing for time, which is funny
Yeah.
because this is like a really plot heavy episode, but still they were playing for
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
And so another thing, sorry, I love this episode. Um, they do this like huge fight. Goldar always dips before anything can happen. That's his like go-to thing. So they're like doing this like final sword laser. Goldar dips, and they have the shot of the Megazord. just his face, looking so unimpressed. I was like, who edited this in? This is so good. He was just like straight face. Like he has no
Hmm.
expressions. He's a robot, but
Yeah.
you knew exactly what that Megazord was thinking. I'm like,
This is
now,
where they zoom in on him, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's just unimpressed.
It is unimpressed.
Yeah.
Um, and why I thought Bulk and Skull were actually really cute in this episode was I genuinely was concerned about this pig when they're like, he's smart. All right, play dead. And I'm like, please don't kick
Mhm.
the pig. Please don't kick the pig. Please don't kick the pig. Please don't kick the pig. Being like, all right, see, it played dead because I kicked him on the ground or something. But instead, they
Yeah.
kind of went, oh, hey, just ignore us. And they're like, haha, see, he's so smart. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, good. I'm glad they went in that direction because I was legitimately concerned about this pig getting kicked for a second.
But I don't think they would do that in Power Rangers in this season, at least. That seems a little bit too evil.
They did stuff on that vein in the first few episodes.
Did they? I might not remember then.
Well, not like punching the pig, but like they Bulk and Skull did weird stuff that were like
Yeah, they
really,
did
really
weird stuff. They put people in garbage cans and stuff, but like not. But I draw the line at animal cruelty.
let me draw the line in animal cruelty. No, yeah, they did really weird stuff with people. Like they were definitely aggressive, invasive of their space, kind of like
Mhm.
um I think he like grabbed Kimberly once or something.
Yeah.
So that's when I said they really deserved their treatment then. Now the
Hmm.
Bulk and Skulls are kind of like they don't even come off as menacing. They're just like really just trying to live their lives and whatnot. I know
Yeah.
I talked for most about like I talked the most about this episode because this is my favorite episode. Do you guys have any notes? Because I do have like Bulk and Skull notes for the next episode as well.
Oh, do you? Because I have no Bulk and Skull notes for the next episode. I was too focused on Billy. Now, is there anything else you want to say on this episode?
Not really. I don't. I just have like small things. They're not even like
Well, bring him
significant.
up.
There's-
Bring him up.
I mean, it was only like this. So it was like it's such a small detail, but Zach picks up that device or whatever, and then like they
Hmm.
cut to the next scene, and like everybody's already informed. Like they didn't show us the scene of him going like, "Hey guys, look at this thing I found. Let's figure." Like they already just jump into the next scene of them like knowing and working on it, which I just appreciated. Like we don't have to be told everything and like shown. It's like a small thing. It's not that. Uh. Oh yeah, they were like, "Oh, we can't hurt the pig," but then they start to attack it anyway. So it's just like, well, then why
Yeah.
you strike it at it? You could like try to grab it or something. I don't know, but like they're literally swinging their weapons at it. I'm like, I thought you can't hurt. So it's just like weird. And then the other thing was, so they made the plan. The whole point apparently was to use the pudgy pig as a distraction, so they could actually like destroy Angel Grove. But then they send Goldar, and I was like, is that really the best option to set to do? Like at this point. So
Hmm.
it was just like that.
Rita has a lot of faith in Goldar. I would argue he's like her favorite child.
Maybe.
Like, hey Goldar, you can do it. I believe in you.
Maybe. But yeah,
At this
that's
point, she should have a contingency, but yeah, fine.
right. But yeah, I don't know. This episode was fine for me.
Yeah.
It didn't really get me thinking much. I was just like, okay, things are
Yeah.
That's
happening.
fine.
And here I
Yeah.
am with my million notes about this episode. I'm like, this is the best episode.
I'm not much of an animal person. Maybe that's why I don't.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe.
Animals
maybe.
don't like speak to me in that way, so I'm just like, cool, do your thing, I guess. I
But
don't know.
another not animal thing is we saw a lot of Zach's breakdance fighting in action.
Mm.
I think up to this point we've only seen it in practice, but now he's actually using breakdance moves on the putties. I thought that was a nice thing to see.
These putty scenes are getting really, really good.
Mhm.
They're really putting their all into these putty scenes, which I super appreciate. It's fun to see them fight unmorphed. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To what you were saying about like that little device though, they're working on it. Billy is like screwing with the device. He has no idea what it is, and then it stops like spinning, and he's like, "The countdown, it's
Yeah.
done. The ticker ran out." Like, I'm like, you know what? That is an actual logical loop, like a conclusion, but you don't
No,
know what it
because
does. Yeah,
he said that in the beginning. He's like, I don't know what it does, but it seems like it's counting down.
yeah. Yeah,
So then
so
it's just like, then it's done. He's like, I don't know what happened.
yeah. What's gonna happen now? Well, we're
Hmm.
running out of time. So I'm like, okay, this is actually like a logical progression
Yeah.
of this weird spinny satellite thingy.
Hmm. Which he was working on with what looked like an egg beater with sparklers attached.
It's very Star Trek-y, right? It's like I love that because it's like
Yeah.
using what you have to make these little like devices and whatnot.
Hmm. But yeah, let's put this alien technology around an open flame. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah. Billy's smart.
Is
He's the
he?
smart one. He knows what to do. He needs special fertilizer.
Sure.
Well, you know what? The stuff that he invents, he eventually creates like an empire, right? In like a
Like a business empire.
business
Yeah.
empire with
Not
all
like an
his
empire
invention.
empire.
Yeah, yeah, not like the Empire Strikes Back or something, but like in the anniversary special that we saw recently, he's
Yeah,
very
he's hugely
successful.
successful.
And I think
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, is he an ethical billionaire? We'll find out.
Nah, can't
There's
be.
no such thing. Um,
He's putting
he
his untested fertilizer in public spaces. Of course, he's not an ethical billionaire.
he just like does these experiments on stuff. He's so funny. But something fishy is a Billy specific
Yes.
episode.
Hmm.
We have Rita being, Billy doesn't like fish, eh? Like, again, Kimberly's a little bit mean, in this episode as well. She's like, she knows Billy doesn't like fish. They're
Hmm.
on this picnic because he doesn't like fish. They had this picnic specifically because he doesn't like fish. She packs fish and chips and
Okay.
forces him to eat it. Kimberly, get it together. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so on the one hand, so I said this was a relatable episode because when I was growing up, I was also afraid of fish while they were alive and refused to eat fish when they were not alive or were they alive when they were alive. I had a very traumatic fishing experience growing up as well.
Oh no.
But fish and chips was the exception because it's so far removed, like physically and visually from actual fish that I could handle like fried fish, but I couldn't handle like grilled fish, for example. So
Right.
I'm on Kimberly's side here. I think even if someone is like childhood against fish, fish and chips is not the least safe.
But does she know that? Because
Yeah, I
Billy
think
like
that's a
has
logical
like
conclusion.
Billy was like, oh, I'm not eating that.
Yeah. But like
I
being afraid of swimming fish versus being afraid of eating fish are two completely different things, I think.
That's true. Fair enough. I'm glad you brought that story up too, because it does bring this whole Billy thing in perspective. Because I'm like, oh, this is like kind of random that
Hmm.
he's scared of, not that he's scared of live fish, like that makes sense, but like he
Yeah.
doesn't want to eat fish. But it does, I guess it does make sense.
yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, I would maybe fault her more for not asking in
Hmm.
before packing the lunch. If anything, like I wouldn't fault her for offering it since she made it, but like since they
Yeah.
decided to go on this picnic, wouldn't you be like, oh hey, I'm thinking of bringing sandwiches or I'm thinking of bringing this food, you
Yeah.
know? So that's the only instant. But like other than that, I'm just like I don't know. To me, eating fish is different than like
Yeah.
being around live
Check
fish.
in with your friends.
And
Check in with your
actually,
friends.
I would fault her for bringing fish and chips on a picnic anyway. That is going
Yeah.
to be so cold and soggy by the time you sit down. Bring cold
Yeah.
food on your picnic, Kimberly. Come
Yeah.
on.
Kimberly. They did bring a what are they called? Those cooler things, right? I guess they're called
Hmm.
coolers, as well, which leads to the second time Billy uses a bucket-like thing in a putty fight.
Yes. I had
Oh,
notes about the first time.
What is your first notes about the first time?
The notes about the first time was that is clearly a plastic bucket that was painted silver. It's not a metal bucket.
Not a metal bucket. He puts his foot in it. I actually forgot that I
Yeah.
wrote this down too. He puts his foot in it and it's empty.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because this is also empty. But like
Hmm.
he I was half expecting him to like kind of fall into a mush. I was like, this is a weird thing, but then it went into him like using it to fight, and I'm like, oh, okay, it suddenly makes
Yeah.
sense. He was
I
like
feel
so
like,
excited. He's like, aha! And then he
yeah,
started
him
peeing with
picking
it.
up the cooler was definitely overhyped. for this
Yeah.
fight scene. I thought he was going to do more with it, but it just like went on a putty's head or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made no sense too, because literally right before they contacted Zordon about how overwhelmed they were, and then he puts the bucket or the cooler on one putty's head, and apparently that solves all problems.
Yes. It
Sure.
was one putty too many.
Yeah.
If we can just incapacitate one, we'll be fine.
Sometimes. Sometimes it be like that. Sometimes it's like, our limit is this, and
Mhm.
now it's too much.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has suspicions that something is up. Even though they just got attacked by putties. He's like, something weird is going on.
Yeah.
Um, I love that this is like the first, and I didn't notice it that like Jason's like, hey, like I'm a scuba diving instructor. So it really reminded me of the Turbo movie where like him and
Hmm.
Kim are doing their scuba stuff together. I really like it when they do stuff in duos. I said that with the fights as well, but when they're in their friend groups, I think it's like kind of really intimate when they do stuff together. We really get to see their like friendship dynamics. And Kim and Billy isn't like a popular one. They do get evil together. It's like random like stuff here and there. I like them together. They're a good friendship duo.
Hmm.
I
But
disagree though that it's not a pop that they often are paired together. Weirdly enough, Kimberly and Billy are paired together quite a bit. They get the Freaky Friday, they get
Oh
turned
yeah, you're
evil
right.
together. There's this episode, I think there's like one or two more where they end up doing stuff together for some reason. I don't know why, but
That's true.
like,
There isn't a lot of Trini Billy stuff,
yeah,
which you think there would be more of.
right. They're like
yeah.
paired together within the five. When the five are together, they're kind of like
Hmm.
together, or like they do have those moments just where they're like working on stuff together, but they're never like on their own non-ranger related adventure together. They're usually
Yeah.
like together when
Hmm.
like, oh, Billy needs to build something and Trini is his assistant apparently. I don't know. It's always just like, oh, Trini will help
Yeah,
me. I guess she's the most intelligent next to Billy.
she is.
So
When
um
Trini leaves, like people have a hard time understanding Billy. Like there is actually a noticeable difference when Trini leaves. It's like suddenly Billy's like kind of thrown into the wolves. And they do like Rocky kind of like tries to pick up the slack there. Because he's a scientist, but he's just not on par as Trini is. I see you shaking your head now. I see you shaking your head.
yeah.
Uh but yeah, Trini doesn't have a lot of episodes. She has like three, and we're on episode like 40 now,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
which is kind of
But yeah, they don't get paired together to just like hang out. They're always
mhm.
paired together
Hmm.
for ranger related stuff, you know.
But
Like it's never like they hang out and then something ranger related interrupts that. That's never really
hmm.
the case with Trini and
Mhm.
Billy. Weirdly enough, um, maybe because they feel like they all they like have them for that ranger pairing, so they don't need to pair them just like as teenagers. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Or they have their own agenda and the Rangers are separate from that.
Yeah, or the
Like the
actors
writers
just
have
get
their own.
along better.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I
Like
don't know.
I know he had a hard time with some of the actors. We don't know who specifically, but he did have a
Intrigued.
hard time with some of the actors. Um, yeah, it sucks. I feel bad for him. He's super nice. Um, I met him once. He's just like the sweetest guy. But
Hmm.
yeah. So it might just be like Kim, the actress is just nice to him. Who knows, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
who
I don't
knows?
know. Um,
But it's an interesting observation.
Yeah, but I would assume Trini's nice too.
Who
I wouldn't
knows?
know, right? Like she
Probably.
Maybe
doesn't
she's
seem
stuck up.
Yeah, I that was just something I kind of like thought about in a second. Like who knows?
Mhm.
That's like unfounded. I was like, "Oh, maybe." It was like a split second thoughts. Um which okay, so this fight scene, going back to the episode, having
Mhm.
Billy cower was honestly like so I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate and only a little bit. But they have this spell called Scare, and
Mm,
like it makes you miss a turn and stuff like that. So like it kind of really was like reminiscence of that. I thought that was so funny. I'm like, this is a good plot to make him scared. And he's cowering. Like whoever did this Japanese footage of Billy cowering did like an amazing job. Like I love it. He's like, oh, he's like hunched over.
Mhm. You can
It's
see the flashbacks in his helmet.
yes. Yeah, it was good. And I think like the menacing part leading up to Goldar being like make him more scared. Like Rita literally goes, "Ting, okay." I'm going to make him more scared.
Mhm.
And it's it was a good fight, I think.
Yeah.
Zach is the one who got the big brain idea to like absorb the stuff to make energy, where it's like, all right, people contributing to the team. Um, but like, so as someone who's never watched the Sentai, I probably won't ever watch the Sentai if I'm going to be honest, but I'm always curious to know what is the context of the Japanese footage, especially when it's stuff like the Blue Rangers cowering.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I think that fish killed his parents.
That fish? That fish
That
monster,
specific fish monster.
making it so dramatic.
No, I just figured that the Blue Ranger and the Sentai had like a substantial fear of fish, probably.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that his backstory is more fleshed out than I was sticking my finger in a lake and a fish bit it.
He just learned about whirlpools. Honestly, if you that's like the most realistic backstory I've ever heard. Okay? I stuck my finger into a lake and a fish bit me, and now I'm
Mhm.
scared of fish. Makes
Right.
sense.
For you, maybe, but for Billy, boy genius over here, if he had just learned about whirlpools, he would know he couldn't recreate one by sticking his finger in the lake. There are
Man,
other natural forces there.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it makes
Yeah.
sense. I would stick my finger in a lake, to be honest, to make a whirlpool, but I'm not a boy genius, like you
Remind
said.
me not to go camping with you.
I'm an adult now. I will not stick my finger into a lake as an adult, okay? Like as a child, I made questionable decisions as a child. My brain didn't make sense as a child. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I've done a lot of stupid stuff as a kid
Yeah.
to try to make other stuff happen. And you learn the hard way that,
Mhm.
you get bitten by like animals, bugs crawl on you. Like, I don't know. Like, once I picked up a rock I wasn't supposed to pick up, and there were like a million insects underneath it. And it was like, that was equivalent to this fish
Mhm.
like this fish story, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, like I never want to pick up a rock ever again.
Mhm.
Like if it looked like it'd been there for a while.
Mm.
And I should have known better because that's like what happened in The Lion King. That's how they got their food. But no, my stupid child brain didn't make that connection. But yeah, that's like the most I have for this episode. Not too many notes.
Yeah. The only other note that I have for this episode is to defeat the fish monster, Billy gives him a taste of his own medicine. How?
Yeah. Oh, how did he
How?
do that? You're
Where did the
right.
blue goo come from?
Yeah, do it. You're right. I did notice that too. I didn't write it down for some reason, but I was like, what do you mean? No, you're right. Give
Yeah.
it a taste of this is like what I was saying about the last few episodes about like some stuff just happens and there's no
Mhm.
explanation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think the other
Also,
thing that got me was Billy's like, okay, I'm afraid of fish, and they're just like, well, you just have to do it, man. You just have to face it. I was like, I don't know if that's the
yeah.
best approach, guys. I know you're not psychologists here, but like, just be like,
Mhm.
just do it is not the way, you know?
Yeah, just get over it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Now that I'm 31, that's kind of how I have to live my life now. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're scared? Well, do it anyway. I'm like, okay. And then I do it, and then I'm less scared later.
Are
But
you
like, do
less
it scared. Huh?
scared? Are you less scared?
Oh, yeah, for sure. If it's
Okay.
like making a doctor's appointment or something, or
Mm.
like an irrational fear that I have, then I've I've learned to, you know, do things scared and be scared while I do them, and then realize that they turn out okay.
That's what bravery is. Good for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
thanks.
guess it
Just
was
like the
just
Lion King.
I guess it was the way
Just like the Lion
it was
King.
just like the approach to it. It was like I guess
Mhm.
they were just like it felt like there was a lack of like concern for his fear, and it was just like
Yeah.
too bad, man. Just do it. You know.
The other Rangers are counting on you. I don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you, bud.
I was just like, come on, Jason. Yeah, it was just like a little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes, well, Jason is not like we've always mentioned that he doesn't really like see the world outside fighting, which makes him a good leader in battle, but it doesn't make him the best friend, even though he tries. He just like isn't intuitive when it comes to like emotions and whatnot.
Maybe.
And we've seen that a couple times in the past. Like we're on
Mhm.
episode 40. We know what Jason's like, right? It's not saying it's okay, but Jason is just he's always been kind of like, just do it. Just do it. Even with his
Mhm.
students, he's like, all right, just do it.
Yeah.
Vulcan
Which
Well, as I
Skull.
was
Sorry,
saying,
go
usually
ahead.
he has more words of encouragement for it. You know, like
Yeah.
even if you see him in the first episode with Billy, it's
Mhm.
it's different than what it was here, where he just have to do it. Whereas before he was like, it takes time. You got the stuff. It's just about like really like applying it and just like. So it was just like a different approach that I was just a little thrown off by. I was like, well, where's the
Yeah.
little just like pep talk?
On the other hand,
Yeah.
his feet are glued to the rock, so like how much of a pep talk could you give him?
No, this was
Yeah,
in
he's
the
probably
command
panicked.
center I'm talking about.
Oh, in the
Uh,
command center.
Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
thought you meant like in the moment.
Oh no! In battle is one thing, but this was in the command center where he was just
Right.
like, I don't know if I can. They're like, well, you have
Well,
to.
you gotta.
It was just like, oh, I mean, he knows that, but
Suck it up, Billy.
yeah,
Get it together. I'm surprised he didn't like slap his head.
Mhm. Maybe in
But
future seasons.
yeah, he gets but Billy really has come to his own. We said that before. Like he's kind of like really an adequate fighter. Not even adequate. He's good now. He's a good
Mhm.
fighter at this
Oh
point.
yeah.
Um, and the thing again, we have Bulk and Skull doing their own story on the side about like fishing, and I feel like Bulk and Skull and Rita really care about what the Rangers are doing, right? Like they're
Mhm.
always kind of doing similar tasks and whatnot, which I think in a way is kind of cute because they just like want to be as good as they are at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think with the Rita's Seed of Evil and then the last environmental episode, Bulk and Skull are like literally trying to do exactly well, take credit to do exactly what the Rangers are doing,
Yeah,
which is like cleaning up and planting trees and stuff.
and
They
catching
just
the
don't know
biggest fish.
how.
Yeah.
so I had this
Yeah.
realization while watching these episodes that, and I don't know if they based it off of it at all, but to me, Power Rangers is very much like an episode of Scooby Doo,
Yes.
and Bulk and Skull are Shaggy and Scooby.
Yes.
And then the rest of the team collectively is pretty much Velma, Fred, and Daphne all combined.
Mhm.
Just because like they're pretty like standard. There's not much, but like, yeah, I just feel like it's an episode of Scooby Doo. Like it's just hijinks abound and just like a lot of like slapstick comedy. And there's a smart one. There's the pretty one or whatever, and then there's
Yeah.
the jock type, or well, Fred has evolved over, but yeah, it's just like it's very much a Scooby Doo thing.
It's true.
Yeah. It's
And
very
Bulk,
archetypal.
yeah, Bulk and Skull are really getting into being air quotes a part of the group. I feel like even though
Mhm.
they kind of like have uh, a disdain for Bulk and Skull, they kind of accepted that, hey, these guys are around, and they're a
Bulk and
part of our
Skull are
lives.
inevitable.
Yeah, part of our lives now. Because even when do they graduate from high school? I
Who?
feel like they're not in high school for a bit of it. And Bulk and Skull are still around, right? What are the Turbo Rangers in high school?
Yeah, well, no, they graduate the first team. They graduate.
Yeah.
In the show, it's like midway. I think they graduate. But yeah,
And Bulk and Skull are still around.
yeah,
So it's like even outside of high school, they're still around.
yeah.
I forget what they're doing at that point, but
Oh, I
we'll
know what
get
they're
there when we
doing.
get there. Okay. Not Bulk and Skull. Oh yeah, they have jobs and stuff. Okay, yeah. Totally
Yeah.
got it. Yeah. All right, that makes sense. Natural progression. But even their jobs and stuff, like they still end up coming back to the Rangers. They do end up being like an integral part of like the Ranger group,
Yeah.
whether they want to or not, which is kind of funny.
The only other note I had for this episode, though, was I mean, I had a couple, but again, whatever. But the main note was the voice of the monster. It's the same actor who voices Lord Zed.
Really?
Yeah, I even looked it up,
Ooh,
but I was like,
that is good to know.
I was pretty sure just by hearing it, but then I was like, I gotta look it up. But yeah, it's the same voice actor, the same actor who voiced Lord Zed. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Lord Zed is hot in his own kind of way. And I just like, it's like how Skeletor is kind of hot. You're like, yeah, I can get behind this, right? Like, no, it makes sense. I'm not crazy. This is normal.
I don't think you're crazy. It just doesn't make sense to
Disagree.
me. Yeah. I don't think you're crazy for it. It just doesn't make sense.
You know what, Rita? It's like, Rita, I can get behind what's going on here.
I guess.
Okay, sure.
Not my
I
taste,
actually don't
personally,
know
but-
what Lord Zed looks like, so I'm just gonna assume that it's the weirdest man creature.
When you get there, don't look it up. When you
I
get
won't look
there,
it up. I
we'll
won't look
make
it
a
up.
note, kind of like the only Power Rangers kiss. When you get there, and then you can judge me at that moment in time.
Sure.
Yeah. But
Just
I
like
feel-
I'm judging you at this moment in time because we had our second Power Rangers kiss.
Did we? Oh, yes,
Yeah.
bring it up.
Norman kissed his pig girlfriend.
No.
Oh, did they kiss?
Yes.
I totally missed that.
I didn't pay attention.
Norman kissed his
Yeah.
girlfriend. second Ranger kiss. They did it, guys. They did it.
I guess so.
They're not Rangers, but we'll count it.
No. Second
No,
kiss in
because-
Power Rangers.
Second kiss in Power Rangers.
Mhm.
That's funny. Anyways, this was Once a Ranger. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Akil and Nav, and then we'll see you in 2 weeks from now.
Bye.
Once a Ranger,
Always a Ranger.